Welcome to Private Equity Profits. Clifford Locks is a certified board of director, a trusted confidant to CEOs, C-level exec, and high-potential employees to help them clarify goals, unlock their potential, and create actionable strategic plans. Seth Green is the nation's foremost authority on growing your portfolio companies with direct response marketing. He is the founder of the direct response marketing firm Market Domination LLC, and he is an 8-time best-selling author who has been interviewed on NBC, CBS, Forbes Inc., CBS Money Watch, and many more. Cliff and Seth interview top players in the financial sector, focusing on private equity firms, venture capital companies, and family offices, discussing developments and trends shaping the industry. These experts will share with you how they've grown their businesses and increased profit, and how you can too. And now, here's your host, Cliff Locks.
Yeah, I mean, you could break it into two categories. So one is providing a comprehensive service experience across all the dimensions of family wealth. Most people just think of investments and they think that being wealthy is easy. Like if I were wealthy, all my problems would go away. But the reality is wealth creates an enormous amount of problems. So there are family dynamics problems. There are your friend problems, your friends who say, hey, could I just borrow some money from you? It's no big deal to you. Or why don't you invest in my cockamamie idea because you got plenty of money, who cares? But the reality is wealth creates a ton of pressure on people. And most people are not prepared to deal with that. So on the one hand, we're different because we provide every service that a wealthy family needs, every financial service and lots of family dynamic services for learning and family missions and values and governance, how you make good decisions in a family. So that's a big differentiator. And then the other differentiator is we are truly an advocate for our clients. We don't sell anything to our clients. We don't have any products or investments we're trying to get them to make. We're there to be their advocate. And for a lot of people, that's a very valuable resource to have.
So when you talk about family dynamic services, what does that look like? How do you that? Because that obviously goes beyond the, traditional family office model where they might call themselves a family office just because they have financial advisors, insurance, accounting, tax, and legal under one roof. You're really going beyond that to serve that next level of need. How does that work?
Yeah, and we've been at this for almost 100 years. I haven't, but the firm has been at it.
You look great.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And the firm's been at this for 100 years. We're on the 6th and 7th generations of our founding family. And for other client families, we're on 2nd, 3rd, 4th generations. So we've seen a lot of generational transitions in families. And one of the things we know is family wealth is not destroyed by a bad investment here or there. It's not destroyed by picking the wrong mutual fund or the wrong private equity fund. It's destroyed by family dynamics and family communication that breaks down. That's the destroyer of wealth. It's the destroyer of family harmony. And so getting that family governance and decision-making right is really important. And I can think of a family we work with, great family, great people, very well educated, extremely successful. They built a very successful company that they took public. And all of a sudden they went from having $5 or $10 million in the bank to having $150 million in the bank. And that's a scary thing. And all of a sudden the family members are a little more concerned. Who's getting what exactly? Who's controlling my assets? Why is my cousin making decisions about my trust? I'm not sure I want my cousin doing that. And also, I've got my brother over here who borrowed my baseball glove when I was 14 and never gave it back. And I'm still mad at him for that. So if you think about all these things, in every family, there are some accumulated grievances here or there. And in most families, there's no money to fight over, so people just kind of let it go. But when you start fighting over 10 or 20 or $50 million, those grievances can be the root of a lot of problems and expensive problems. So spending time getting all the financial things right is important, but spending a lot of time with the family on family dynamics is almost more important than the financial stuff.
Absolutely. We've always said that money magnifies who you are and it magnifies what issues you have. So if you're a jerk and you get money, you'll be more of a jerk.
Yeah,
If you're
right.
a nice person, might make you even nicer because now you have the resources to be nicer and fund more things. So how do you facilitate that guidance in that process? Because that isn't a traditional, let's go over your portfolio and your estate plan review. That takes other professionals that you have. How does that part of the process work?
Yeah, so we have a team, a family learning team here at Pitcairn, led by a woman named Amy Hart Klein, who is a fabulous researcher and teacher and partner, thinking partner for families. And she's got a great team, Janine Ifla and Ashley Cirillo, really experienced at helping families go through the process of understanding their dynamics, understanding their mission, understanding their values as a family, and helping them set up governance structures that are going to help that family make good long-term decisions. And a lot of times they're bringing in outside experts who are experts in a particular type of family dynamic or a particular kind of business where that might be the key to the family. But there are always tensions. And so having really good experienced facilitators in that learning process, in that family dynamics discovery process, is very important. And they go through a process with multiple steps and multiple layers. You don't just sit down for an hour with a family and say, okay, we figured it all out. We're good for the next 30 years. It doesn't work that way.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see wealthy families making that you're helping them avoid or that you wish you could help them avoid?
I think one of the biggest mistakes is all of our clients are wealthy, and they got wealthy in all kinds of different ways, but none of them got wealthy running a family office. They got wealthy in the transportation business or the real estate business or the paint business or energy or whatever. None of them got rich running a family office. And so they really don't understand the complexity of running a family office, having multiple stakeholders who all feel, I think rightly, feel that they should have some control over their own destiny. A lot of families, they're used to having one person make all the decisions and then everybody else falls in line, but that doesn't work well, especially in once you've had a liquidity event in your business. And so one of the biggest mistakes that I think wealth creators make is they think, well, because I can run a complicated logistics company, I can also run my family office. Because I can invest in good trucking and warehouses and train contracts and other things, I know how to make investments all over multiple industries beyond my expertise. And that rarely works well. Families make a lot of mistakes there. And that's both a financial mistake and it's a governance mistake because the family members or really the family leaders don't realize enough of their own limits.
Absolutely. You talk a lot about the learning platform. Talk a little bit about the Gen 7 project.
The Gen 7 project is our research and learning hub, and we run a lot of programs out of that. Our team, particularly Amy, has just conducted a very large research project on women family leaders in wealthy families. And this study is just extraordinary. It'll be released in the next few weeks and is really one of the best pieces of research I've read on how women are leading changes in wealthy families and how they're leading their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to become better stewards of wealth. And Amy went and talked to, I forget what it was, 40 or 50 different families and women in those families to get a really comprehensive picture. And it's an extraordinary piece of research, and I'm really excited for it to come out.
That is absolutely incredible. Talk a little bit. I mean, you've worked, you can't disclose all, obviously, with client confidentiality, but you've worked with some household names that we would all recognize in terms of wealth creators. What have been some of the lessons you've learned along the way?
Well, that's a great question. I talk more openly with my kids about money certainly than my parents did. My parents didn't have any money, so the conversation was, we don't have any money, it's over. But with my kids, we are much more conscious of talking with them about money, talking about them talking with them about the responsibilities of making money and managing it well. Our boys are teenagers, but they both work, and they don't work in glamorous jobs. They are working minimum wage jobs, learning from the ground up how the economy works, what it means to be a responsible employee, what it means to be responsible for your money. And I think that's really one of the best lessons I've learned from our clients and from our business.
And then other families come and say, you know, we have 4 kids. They have no idea about investing. We are all fine. You know, maybe the husband, he has built up his wealth, and he says, well, but my kids will inherit this at one day, but they have no idea about investing. Can you teach them? That's actually quite a big thing in our whole portfolio of services, that we provide an academy program where we very individual. You know, some say, can you just do some education in the different asset classes? And we would say, okay, there's one module where we explain how does listed equity actually work, and one will explain, well, how do you invest in real estate? And one would say, what about private debt? We would then go about explaining all these things, because we very much believe, actually also be a German thing. Over here, most asset managers, they come to the clients and say, it's great that you're here. It's wonderful. Now you don't have to worry about anything. Just give me your money and I will take care of it. And the typical entrepreneur in Germany will panic at these sentences, because, I mean, usually he did the decisions and he was very good at deciding stuff. And now there's somebody coming along who wants to take all this away from him. What we try to do is say, look, what you've always done, I mean, this is for the kids, but also for the guys, for the successful entrepreneurs. You have done your decisions very well in your space. And now suddenly you want to invest in venture capital, for example, or real estate, which you have never done before. So we will kind of teach you all you need, take the decisions in the future on the same solid ground. Yeah, that's pretty much our approach.
I'm proud of you. What is your approach to identifying the most objectively suitable financial service partners for your clients?
I think it's a two-way process. On the one hand, of course, when it comes to investments like private equity, for example, you have your league tables, you have, you know, everyone, it's very transparent. What's the best track record? Who are the guys you want to invest in? I don't know. For example, venture capital, well, you want to invest with Andreessen Horowitz or Sequoia or Benchmark, and then your only problem is, will they give you allocation or not? Well, that's the easy part. So you work on your network, you try to, you know, get the connections to be able to invest with the best guys on the planet. But then when it comes to stuff like listed equity, we are more a contrarian, in the contrarian side of who we like to give money. So for example, most asset managers, I think that's actually globally, will say, well, you know, we have a diversified portfolio of 30 to 50 companies, and that's a very concentrated portfolio. And then that's when I panic, because a concentrated portfolio is something between 10 and 15 companies. You don't find that in the normal institutions like a bank or a huge asset management firm, but you do find it with one captain ships. We look for these guys who you know have a setup where they do their investments, but basically they concentrate on investing in a concentrated portfolio, and they have spectacular returns. This is purely basically getting to know the guys, trying to find these guys at conferences, value in going to Omaha. I mean, I didn't go the last 2 years, but you know, we go to Omaha, meet guys at the Berkshire AGM, and you get your network of guys who actually do these style of investments. Have to do a lot of explaining when the families come to us at first, because I mean, they have heard all their life that you need 30 to 50 companies in a portfolio for it to be a meaningful portfolio. And so that takes a lot of education actually, but most families end up in these style of investments.
That leads me very nicely into, what are the main differences in private equity markets in Asia, America, and Europe?
Well, that's a very broad question, a very good question. I mean, for me, the best private equity managers are still found in the United States. I mean, this is where it originated. This is where the best guys are, and where the innovation actually I mean, the structural innovation, how to invest in the private equity space comes from. I would always tell our families, when you want to invest with the best private equity guys, you need allocation in the United States. Then in Europe, you have some very able managers. Probably the markets are not priced to perfection the way it might be in the United States. But then again, I always think most families have a home bias. That's everywhere on the globe. But we have the same in Germany. So I always tell the families, rather do a little, concentrate your private equity portfolios rather in the United States or in Asia, because you have enough assets in Europe anyways. So I always work against the home bias and try them to, I mean, that's a very personal thing. I mean, you have people, they say, well, the only place to invest money is in the US. And others say, well, you know, this is all cowboy country, and I don't like to invest in the United States. And well, for me personally, I would always feel very comfortable having at least 30% of my worth in North America. So I rather have an over allocation in the United States and in Asia. And then, I mean, you also asked about Asia. In Asia, it's definitely still an emerging space there, but that can give you spectacular returns. We had the experience also like 6, 7, 8 years ago when I talked to clients about investing in Asia. They were like, well, if I invest in Asia, it's more risky than investing in Europe or in the US. So I want more return. I totally understand this thinking, but it was not possible. You could not get a higher PE return in Asia. And nowadays, the discussion is totally different. It's more risky not to invest in Asia than to be invested. We go there, we do due diligence in Hong Kong, in Beijing, and we try to get a feeling on the ground for the right teams. And yeah, we found some really good managers, large and small. And so we do quite some allocation over there.
Thank you for sharing. What is your approach to identifying risk factors that can lead to permanent impairment of capital?
Oh, that's a very good question. Also a very difficult question. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with the Warren Buffett quote, rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. I mean, that's just the heart of compounding. And if you want to do compounding, you should not lose money on the way. So that's very difficult. And that's where the margin of safety comes into play. It's at the heart of what we do, try to identify what can go wrong. And that doesn't matter if we're talking about private equity or listed equity or real estate or whatnot. It's always the same question. We have toolkit 8 factors that we always apply no matter which asset class. And for example, one first question that we always ask, does the manager that we give money to have skin in the game? I mean, this very old, silly in a way aspect, but it's the one that is so important. And if you get the right answer on that, and then you have alignment of interest, that's a very, very positive. I mean, in Hamburg, you know, we are a shipping city. And I mean, it's a very good example here because we had lots of shipping companies here. And there used to be a time when the guys who run the shipping companies, they would run, for example, 20 or 30 ships. And then they would have their equity in 3 of these 30 ships. And the rest would only be with other people's money. Now you guess which ships never lost money. You know, it's so funny. I mean, even in the biggest crisis, the ships that had the money of the entrepreneur somehow came through and the others didn't. And it's a simple factor, but we always follow this. So we probably lose quite a lot of interesting deals because there's no skin in the game or too little, but we're fine with that because the risk side is so important for us.
Well said. How do you achieve transparent planning, analysis, and implementation without conflict of interest?
And that's an easy question for us because it's at the heart of our business model. We are not an asset manager. I mean, that's the problem when you, for example, it's about a listed equity portfolio and you go to a bank and say, well, is your portfolio the best? Of course, it's the best. When you come to us, we're an independent advisory firm. You know, we don't take any kickbacks. The only guy who pays us is our client. They ask us question. We do a very neutral and independent screen of what's available, who can kind of fulfill the required criteria, and then we present them to our clients. Whether, you know, they get a 30-page analysis of what are the risks, what are the chances to give this guy or that guy money with a strategy, and then it's our client who will decide. There is actually no conflict of interest involved.
So being independent is very, very positive, and that's different than most firms sitting in Germany at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, and also the structure of our company is kind of working in our favor. I mean, we are just 3 guys owning the company. Nobody else has shares. We will try to give more people in our company. I mean, we're 70 people now, so we will try to give more people shares of the company, but nobody from the outside. It's the entrepreneurial families that are our clients. They're very much like that, because it's kind of from, I don't know, they feel at arm's length. They like to talk to other entrepreneurs in a way, and so it's at the same level field somehow.
Sometimes it's also very interesting to look at deals that have not worked out the way you had hoped at the beginning. Could you tell us about the worst deal and what you've learned from that experience?
That's a great question, Cliff. I love it, because actually that's the way we think. I mean, you always have to try to learn from your mistakes. And well, there's one example that comes to my mind, because it's kind of, I mean, it's a real estate project that we did, and it looked really nice. It was a building with a hotel, and it had some apartments, and it had a cinema, and it had parking spaces, and it sounded also good. And every one of these aspects had a manager who actually knew the field. The guy who did the cinema is kind of the leading cinema guy in Germany, etc., etc. And it all made a lot of sense. And then it all fell apart at some stage. And the main failure, or where we didn't kind of understand enough of the project, was it was too complex. And when it came to building this project, it was too complex to handle. So the costs were running out of the budget, and at some stage they made a forward deal and sold the project, but they hadn't closed all the cost side. The cost side was still open, but they sold already. And that was a huge problem. And I mean, we do manager selection, so it was too late. We saw too late the complexity of the project, and that the calculation could not work out. That was a big problem, and we're very very aware of this now, and I'm sure that will not happen again. But that was really a big learning experience, and we lost money on that, and it felt really bad, and it was bad for our clients. And yeah, it's always nice to talk about, 14, 20, whatever percent good investments. But I mean, we have actually, we have 6 investments of the 169 that didn't work out. And this was the worst. And then one is minus 2%, and one was minus 15%. And I think overall it's okay, but still those were mistakes that we made.
Okay. Let's go back to one of the earlier conversations we had. Tell me more about the Contour Academy, specifically the structure, the content, and who's it for? Because I was excited to hear this. I think it's really advantageous when I find a leader like you and your team putting an academy together and what that can bring forth to the client and the community. Tell me more.
Yeah, I love to talk about it, because it's basically what makes us go around. I mean, it's all about learning. It's about also teaching, but also we learn a lot from our clients. They're very driven and intelligent and great guys. And investing is a difficult area. And funny enough, at least in Germany, investing is not taught at any university. Yeah, you have finance courses, etc., etc. But I mean, something like what Columbia School does not exist over here. So we have modules where you learn about what is private equity. We have modules where you learn, all the different asset classes. But then most important module from my point of view is the one that the co-founder, Stefan Buchwald, held. And that's about, is there something that over centuries, the successful families all done? Are they common rules that you can follow? And yes, they are common rules. And if you look at what families who have built huge wealth done over centuries, you always come to the same conclusions. And that's so funny. You don't have to, invent it for new. You just have to be very disciplined and look at, what others have done in the past, and then try to apply it with the same discipline. And for example, one thing that you'll find that in old Jewish families, you will find that in, all over the world, it's the same principles. For example, diversification and trying to drive down on the correlation between risk is something that has been done for centuries. They had different names. It wasn't called alternative investments. Maybe it was the land, you have to own land. Or what now for us, for example, listed equity, private equity, or direct investment in companies is basically the same risk that you buy. You buy into future cash flows of companies. Find that family Fugger is an old German family who they made deals with the Pope at one point, centuries ago. But that's the same principle. They had some of their money in land, some of the money in real estate, and some of the money in companies. That's what they did. And basically, it's the same idea that we try to tell our clients.
You have something unique. You offer a family office services, and you provide this valued service through a single point of contact, which is circumventing the bureaucracy. What motivated you to do that, and why is it so important?
Well, it goes to the name of the firm. Not a lot of, as you know, a lot of firms in this business are called, Miller Asset Management or whatever the case may be. And I wanted to put solutions on there because I do have a number of clients, actually a lot of female clients that are either widowed or divorced, and they either had an individual in their life before or need someone who can really handle not just the investments, but everything.